Hi, welcome to Subtraction Lesson 2, solving subtractions by jumping. Now this method, this way of doing it really opened my eyes to what subtraction was all about. And if you can get your head around this method, using this as a method, it really does make subtractions a lot easier. Okay, so when you're doing the jumps that we're looking at now, what we're doing is we're actually not looking at going backwards, we're looking at going forwards, because it's a lot easier, especially children find it a lot easier to count forwards, to do the additions, than it is to go backwards, because it's more, it's just easier. It's just easier for them to do. So if they can know that when they're doing a subtraction, you're finding the difference between, in this calculation here, you've got 87 and 23. So on my number line here, I start at 23 and I get to 87. So this difference here in the middle is what my answer to my calculation will be. So instead of going from 87 and going backwards, which is a little bit tricky, what I realise I can do is I can go from 23 and go forward, and that makes it a little bit easier for me. So what I've done here, this method is called the triple jump, is you start on 23. Okay, I know then that I get to 30, which is a nice, like I said, we're always looking for multiples of 10 because they're really easier to work with, is a 7. So I've added 7 there. Okay, then I know then from 30, 90 would be too far, but to get to 80, I add 50. So we call that the skip. And then we need to add a 7 again to do the jump to get to 87. So we started on 23, so instead of going from 87 backwards, we're going from 23 up to 87. We're finding the difference with a hop to the next multiple of 10, skip to the nearest multiple of 10 to our number we're trying to get to, and then the jump as the final units needed to get to the final part of the calculation. So from 23, so what's the difference between 23 and 87? Well, it's 64 because I've got 50, 2 sevens is 14, 14, recombine those together, and I get 64. Okay, and doing it that way, children tend to find it a lot easier. Okay, so there's another example. So I've got 75 take away 37. So I'm starting on 37, I'm finishing on 75. I need to find the difference here. What's the difference between them? So I do my hop to my next multiple of 10, which is 40. Okay, my skip, which is my jump to the multiple of 10 which is closest, which in this case would be 70. So it's adding 30, and then 5 adds that 5. I put those together, 30 and 3 add 5 gives me 38, and that's my calculation there. You can work for bigger numbers. Sometimes we call it quad jump if we're going into the hundreds. So again, same calculation at the bottom. 132 minus 56. I take my 56 and I start there. I've got to get to 132. The difference between them is going to be my answer. So start on 56, I get to 60. Is my next multiple of 10, so I'm adding 4. Then I'm getting to 100 and adding 40. Then I'm adding another 30 to get to the multiple of 10 that's closest, and then I'm adding 2 in my final step. Okay, so that's how I might do it as a quad jump. Okay, or I could do even bigger, and it's about working out jumps which are right for you. Okay, so on this one I've got exactly the same, 723 as my, and then 356 where I'm starting over here. I need to find the difference between them. I need to know how many I need to add to 356 to get to 723. Okay, I can use smaller jumps. Okay, so I could add 4 here and then 40 to get to 400. I might know in my head, and okay, I might be able to do it and say, actually, I know that I need to add 44 to get to 400. Then when I know then that I could do 323, or I might just know that I need 323. Okay, and then I can just add my 44 and my 323 together to get me 367. And I can do that mentally, or I can do a little jotting of column addition we looked at last week to help me. Okay, so jump onto the big board now so we can have a go at these, a couple of these together, and then have some for you to have a go with yourself. Catch you in a sec. Bye. Okay, so we're onto the big board now, and this, like I said before, was a real revelation for me working out subtractions like this, because I found it a whole lot easier to do. So
we're going to look at this calculation first, okay? So we've got 87 take away 44, okay? So what I'm going to do on my number line that I've got drawn underneath is I'm going to put my 87 at here, and then I'm going to put my 44 here. And that's the joy of a number line. I can put any numbers on it I want to help me with this calculation. So with this calculation, the answer to this calculation is the difference between 87 and 44. And like we looked at yesterday, you could go backwards, but what you could also do is you could go forwards. And generally speaking, me included, I find it easier going forward. So this method here is called the triple jump, because we're going to do 3 jumps. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to get from 44, first of all, to the next multiple of 10. So I know after 44, the next multiple of 10 is going to be 50. Okay, so 50 is my next multiple of 10. So what I'm going to put on here is I'm going to put on how many I added on to get onto 50. So I've added 6 there to get to 50. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from 50 to the next, the closest multiple of 10 before 87. Okay, so that would obviously be 80. 90 would be too far, and I don't want to do that. So I want to get from 50, and I want to jump to 80. Okay, and I want to know how many I've added on there. So 50, 60, 70, 80. So I've added 30 onto that. Okay, and then I'm going to do my last jump. So this is my hop. This is my skip. And then this is my jump. So I'm going to go from 80 to 87, which I'm going to add 7 on there. Okay, so now I've found out the difference by doing a hop, a skip and a jump. Okay, so 6 and 30 and 7, I can add those up, so I can recombine those together to find the difference. Okay, so I've got 37, so I can do 30, add 7 is 37, then add my 6. Well, if I had 3, I get to 40, and my other 3, I get to 43. Those 3 numbers there are my difference, so that's my answer to my calculation. 87, take away 44 is 43. And if I ever want to check a calculation, I can go back, I can inverse it, do the opposite. So if I did 43, add 44, I'd get to 87. Okay, so this one, slightly bigger numbers, okay? So this is I'm going to do a quad jump on this one. I'm going to do it, set it out in exactly the same way though. 157 subtract 64. So I'm going to start with 64 here on my number line. And I want to get to 157. Okay, number line works brilliantly because those are the 2 numbers I know that I need to work between, so I know both ends of it straight away. So I'm at 64. So this time I'm going to do 4 jumps instead of 3 jumps because I've got 100. Okay, and just to make that a little bit easier for myself. So first thing I'm going to do is the same as I did before. Okay, I'm going to jump to the next multiple of 10. So 64 is going to be a jump to 70, and I know I'm adding 6 to get to the 70. Okay, then I'm going to do a jump, and I'm going to jump to 100. Okay, just to make it easier, a little bit easier for myself. From my 70 to 100, I've got a jump of 30. Then I'm going to jump from 100 to my multiple of 10 that's just below my 157, so that's going to be 150. So I want to jump from 100 to 150, and then I'm going to jump. Okay, so my 100 to 150 is a jump of 50, and my 100 is a jump of 7. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm doing it through jumping. Now I might be able to go from 70 to 150 in one jump. If I can do that, that's fine. I'm just showing you this way so you can break it down a little bit more. So I've got 30 and 50, so 50, 60, 70, 80, and then I've got 87, okay, and then I've got to add 6 to that, which will give me 93. Don't be afraid to do a little jotting underneath if you want to help you, okay. Jottings are great, so you might do a 50 and a 30, okay, and a 6 and a 7, and you could do a little column addition. Okay, 6 add 7 is 13, okay, carry the 1 over in there, 5 add 3, add 1, but we know that's 50, add 30, add 10, is 90, 93. And again, I can check that back on myself if I want to. Okay, because I can do 93 add 64 equals 57. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to get that, so my jumps, I'm jumping from the low to the high. So I'm going up instead of backwards, because backwards is more challenging. Okay, so you're going to use your dice again. I've not got a helper here today, so I'm going to make the numbers up, but you roll your dice to do it. So let's do together, we're going to do 2. Okay, I think people will be able to do this, work this one out here. So we'll do one more of these and then we'll do a slightly bigger one as well. Okay, so let's do 148 take away 72. Okay, so remember, if you rolled your dice and you got 148, so you did 148 and 72 by rolling your dice, getting your digits. Okay, remember you need to put your biggest number first. Okay, if I'd rolled a 72 and then or a 7 and a 2 and then a 1 and a 4 and an 8, okay, I need to make sure that I put my biggest number first when I'm doing a subtraction calculation, otherwise it will all go pear-shaped. Okay, so then I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my number line. Okay, and at the top of my number line I'm going to have 148, and then at the bottom of my number line I'm going to have 72. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly the same as what I did last time. So from my 72 I'm going to get to my next multiple of 10, so I'm going up to 80, and to do that I know I'm adding 8. Okay, so now I'm thinking 80, is it worth going up to 100 as a jump, or do you think I could get to 140? Well, actually, I'm feeling a bit more confident with this one, so I think I can go all the way to 140. So I think I can do that mentally, because I know that 80 to 100 is 20, and I know that 20 to 100 to 140 is 40. So 20 add 40 is 60. Okay, so I've cut out that step in the middle there for this one, just because, and that's up to you if you do that. I could do it, okay, because I could do from 80 to 100, and then 100 to 140, because that would be 20, and that would be 40, or I can do it as one big jump all the way up there, completely up to you. And then from 140 to 148, I know that I'm adding 8. Okay, so that's the steps. Getting it to the next multiple of 10, okay, because counting up in our 10s is the easiest one to count up in, apart from maybe our 1s. Okay, and then getting to the number we need to get to. So here I've got a 60, an 8, and an 8. Okay, so I can do a little column addition. 8 add 8, 0 add 8 add 8 is 16. So I need to put my 10s there and my 6 there. 6 add 1, which is actually 60 add 10, gives me 70. 76 is my answer to my calculation. Okay, so there we go. That's the jumps. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, let's look at one more, slightly more difficult one. This one, one last one, and then you can have a go. So let's do a 3-digit takeaway 3-digit. Now, if you're rolling the dice, remember we need the biggest number first. So let's have 458 take away 123. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm setting it out in exactly the same way. Putting my number line there, giving myself a little bit more space on this one. I know that I'm starting at 123, and I know I need to get to 458. Okay, because the difference between those is the difference here. So I've got 123, so this time I'm thinking, okay, so what jumps could I do here? Well, I think I probably want to get to 130 first, because that's a nice multiple of 10, that's my next multiple of 10. So if I'm doing 130, okay, I'm adding 7. So I put my 7 up there. From 130, I probably want to, because I've got hundreds to go here, I probably want to get to my next multiple of 100. So let's see if I can get to 200 here. So I've got 200. To get from 130 to 200, I'm adding 70. So then I've got 200 to get to 400, okay? So now I'm thinking, right, well, I need to count up in my hundreds, really. I need to do quite a big jump here. need to get to 400. So that's my next 100. So then 200 to get to 400 is 200. Okay, so now I need to get to 58. Now what I can do here is I'm thinking, well, I could do a jump to 50 and then I could do a jump to 8. Okay, but that's 2 more steps. I know that that jump there is 58. So now I've got all my numbers here, and what I can do is I can do a simple column addition. So I've got 200, I've got 70, I've got 58, and I've got 7. Okay, so there are my numbers, and I can do that as a column addition. So I've found the difference between 123 and 458, and that's what subtraction is all about. So I've got 0, 0, add 6, add 7 would give me 15. Okay, 7 add 5, add 1, or 7 add 5 is 12, 13. Okay, and then, was that 70 add 50 add 10? We know that from our column addition there. And then I've got 200 add 100, gives me that 335. Okay. So that's how the do the jumping method works. Okay, we've got the triple jump over here. This is called a quad jump because there's 4. Okay, but it's up to you how you do your jumps. But I recommend, okay, to start off with, you go to the nearest 10, then you go up to the multiple 10 that's just below, because you're counting up in your tens, and that's one of the easiest ones to count up with, and then you're doing your jump at the end. Okay, don't be afraid to do a little jotting if you need to. Okay, little column additions like this can really help you as well. And just remember, when you're rolling your dice, that you make sure that you put the biggest number first when doing subtraction calculations. Alright, good luck with that. See you tomorrow. Cheers.